indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hey, Madam Reporter, if you would take the roll, please.
Mr. Lindsay,
Present.
Mr. Fanoff? Is he
Present.
Mr. Slotnick,
Here.
Mr. Pemper?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Anybody who is going to be speaking tonight, if you would please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear and or affirm to tell the truth?
I solemnly and affirm to tell the truth.
And when you do talk, please state your name for the record and spell your last name.
Okay.
Okay, the first item that we're going to have that is not on the agenda is the election of officers. So first, for the role of chair, any nominations?
I'd nominate Joel Slotnick.
I second.
Thank
Who was
you.
that?
Aye. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? And for vice chair, I would like to nominate Glenn Lindsay. Glenn, do you
Accept.
have a? Go
I
ahead.
second.
Robert?
Oh, I was just saying I second, but I guess now it's a third.
Okay, well, we have our new officers. Thank you very much.
Get the vote on it. You didn't vote on the second, the vice chair.
Right.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Congratulations. Now, I need, the minutes have been sent out for March 9th because we did not have an April meeting. I need a motion to approve.
Move to approve.
A second,
Second.
There you go.
all in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, the minutes have been approved.
I'm sorry, for clarification, it seems like there's 3 members that are present, but 4 that are voting. Is that true?
There's 2 on Zoom.
There's 2 on Zoom? Did I miss that?
Me and Robert.
Right, okay. But I don't think both of them recognized, were they?
Yeah, they were on roll call.
They were?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally missed it.
It's okay. All right, I already did.
Yeah, you did that, but
Yes,
one of them, not both of them. One of them was sworn in. The gentleman in the suit was sworn in, the madam and the,
I asked for anybody who was going to speak.
she didn't say a thing. She was never sworn in.
I thought I saw her.
Are you talking about me?
Yes,
I said yes.
I know, but Mr. Chairman, she never answered your questions when you asked to be sworn in. I'm just telling you. The record.
Let me re-swear you in, please. Do you solemnly swear and or affirm to tell the truth?
Yes.
Please state your name.
Juria Baloo.
Thank you.
And I was not being like picky, but sometimes people don't say anything because they don't know they have to say anything.
No, thanks. All right, our first item is case number 22-11-03, and that's 5100 North State Road 7, Plaza Hotel status hearing. Detective.
Mr. Chair, if you don't mind, if we go out of order and actually take case 23-0201, the one-stop shop first, I believe that'll be very quick, and then
Okay.
we can have Mr. Hoffman released.
Okay. All right, so we will move to case number 23-02-01, 18 Northwest First Avenue, one-stop shop. Detective.
Just for the record, my name is Jameson Jones. I'm a detective with the City of Fort Lauderdale Police Department. The updates on 18 Northwest First Avenue, the one-stop shop, glad to report that there's only been 6 calls for service, none of which were nuisance related. I was able to obviously very easily review these calls for service. On March 25th, the employee working at the one-stop shop actually called police in reference to a trespasser. The only other report generated was a verbal dispute that occurred outside of the store, which then spilled into the store. And other than that, none of the other calls were documented. Mr. Hoffman, the store owner, has been extraordinarily communicative, providing police with updates as needed. We've been working together in an attempt to try to figure out the homeless scenario that we had spoke about in prior meetings. I can't say enough about the store's attempts. Their calls for service seem to be reflective of that. In 60 days, 6 calls, especially in that area. So, I want to just say thank you for all your efforts there. Again, they're doing everything they need to. It's in a tough area to begin with, but everything we've asked them to do, they're doing. So other than that, I would just recommend, obviously, we'll return for our June 8th meeting. I appreciate you being here today. I know it's short and sweet, but other than that, that's the only thing that we have from our side of the house.
I do have a question. Have you gotten anywhere with the church with the feeding program? That was kind of a little
No,
problem with
honestly,
you.
like, because every time you see different faces, different people, like even before I left, I took a pictures. They stopped close to Andrews and they was giving the clothes away and bunch of stuff. So I just took a pictures. Actually, I just took it right now. People, the first time I seen in my life. Like every time you see different people, I took a couple of times, I tagged pictures just to see if they're coming back again, same people, so I could talk to the officer about it. But I don't have any seeing any persons coming back again. It looked like it's people and all, not most of the time is church. Like people like to donate, people like to feed the homeless is a personal more than be in church. So this is the only issue right now we've been having. Just I hope we find a solution as soon as we can about it. And I'm gonna every time update with the officer Jonathan. So I hope we get on away everything as soon as we can.
Appreciate that. Anybody of our board members on Zoom who have any questions for One Stop Shop?
No.
Okay, thank you very much. We appreciate all your efforts that you've been doing. It's a great report and we know it'll continue.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. You can go if you know.
We need a new date.
The new
The
date
next meeting.
is June 8th. So we'll see you at the June 8th meeting. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful
Thank you.
day.
Have a good night.
So you received notice tonight at the meeting that the June 8th meeting is gonna happen.
Yeah, I thought he had said that.
I know, I'm sorry. I'm such a dork.
Now we'll go to our other case, which is 22-11-03,
Hard, right?
5100 North State Road 7, the Plaza Hotel. Detective?
So we're gonna, we have a bunch of slides prepared for the board. The calls for service between March 8th and May 8th, so the past 60 days, obviously, we didn't have an April meeting, totaled 119, which is obviously an average of 60 a month. That's obviously a substantial amount of calls to go through, so I won't belabor the board with reading out 119 different calls for service, but they range from burglaries to larcenies, a lot of different disturbance-related calls, civil matters, but I think the most concerning ones to the police department are the burglaries, larcenies, things that the police department labels Part 1 crimes that essentially show up as dots on our map. So for January, I went back at the January meeting, I think that's these. Yeah, sorry.
Detective, I'm sorry. I was just on the beeping. Is there a reason we didn't meet on May 8th? I'm sorry, June.
In April?
In April,
Because of the flooding, the storm.
right, it's for the record.
So
What storm?
the historic flooding, which shut
The
down City
Falcon
Hall.
Year flood,
Right, and so the commission hall was not available and we didn't have a place to meet, that kind of stuff?
yes. Thank
Um,
you.
So just to, I guess, bring the board kind of back up to what was trending at the Plaza Hotel. January, the past 30 days from that meeting reflected 107 calls for service. February was 80, March was 60. And then for subsequently April and May, the average there was 60. So they went from 107 to 80, and now the past 3 months have been hovering around 60. So if you could cue the next slide. What we did was we had our crime analyst department put together all the calls for service that had occurred since January 1st to date of 4/26/2023. What we were trying to capture, and if you recall at the last meeting, was when are the calls coming in? And we were trying to hone in exactly when the detail would be most effective to try to obviously bring some of those calls down. The average, give or take, is about 10 calls per hour segment throughout the day. If you were to take any segments of the day where those calls exceed 10 per hour, it's basically 11 a.m. till 2 a.m., if that makes sense. So if we really wanted to capture anything that was above average, you would have to go from 11 a.m. to 2 a.m. Currently, that the detail does not cover all those hours, and I'll kind of get into that in a second. But again, I just want to kind of let the board know that that's our average. If you don't mind, hit the next slide. The Plaza Hotel sends us an email every week and lets us know what the current room rate is. Reflective as of April 28th. The daily rate for a king room was approximately $83. For a double was approximately $72. And then if you don't mind, hit the next slide. The current room rates as of 5/5/2023 are 125 for a king and 114 for a double. And then obviously they post the weekly rates as well. However, if you don't mind, hit the next slide. It's going to be a little bit difficult to see, but I'll try to translate it as best I can. What I did was I went on Google and just did a search for nightly room rates for the Plaza Hotel. And I guess this is a question for hotel management, is if the hotel is charging a room rate of $125.48 per night for a king room, why is it that somebody could jump on Google or Expedia or Booking or hotels and get that same room for as low as $52? Because I believe what the board was trying to capture is that if the room rates are so low that the attraction would be to nefarious, actors, I guess, at that discounted rate. So I'm curious why there is such a discrepancy in the room rate.
Well, the discrepancy comes from on the same dates. If the hotel occupancy is not optimal, if we have a lot of rooms left to sell, we're going to compare ourselves to other hotels in our comp set. Let's say the Grand and the Link, those are two main comp set that we have. Depending on their rate, we're going to adjust our rate to be close to them. Often the same rate or often a little bit lower than them to try to get the hotel occupancy up. Or else basically we're not going to be able to make enough money to cover our costs. So we always sell at a higher rate at first, but we do active revenue management. And that is done to corporate level. The corporate Kedja group who owns the hotel, they decide on the rates, and each day I would say the rate would change. So you would see dates where the rate would be pretty high, and some other day where we would go as low as normally $54. That is our bottom rate.
Okay. So when the hotel sends us the information about what the nightly room rate is, where does that number, I guess, come from? Is that from a walk-in client, or is that from?
It comes from our PMS, but a walk-in client or who books on Expedia and online should have the same rate. And often we do offer a lower rate when you book directly through us than through a travel agent, but it should always be the same rate.
Okay.
But if I'm not mistaken, was that this You received a rate for the 11th also, or that was for the?
Well, just for example, the last rate that we received was on 5/5, and it said $125.48 for a king and 114 for a double.
And that was for 5/5, right?
That was for 5. It says the history and forecast along with guest in-house.
Because that is the rate of the 5/5 and 5/5, if I'm not mistaken. We had the Grand Prix in Miami that had a few like rooms that got to Fort Lauderdale. So the rates of all the hotels were a bit higher that date. But if you're looking at today, the 11th, there's not much activity in town. So we're always comparing our rates to the Link or to the Grand, and we're adjusting accordingly.
Okay, so is it fair to say that what I found on Expedia or Google or any of these booking sites, that tonight's reflective rate is 52 to 57?
It is fair to say, yeah.
Okay.
This is the bottom rate normally we wouldn't go down less than 54, but sometimes the OTAs would put some promotions here and there. You would see 52, I would think, the lowest online.
Okay. Does the board have any questions before I continue about rates?
So we can imagine that for Memorial Day weekend, your rates are gonna be boosting up again.
Exactly. And you would see that this would be the lower season for the year. So our rates would not be that high during this period of the year.
Are you seeing a change in your clientele when you bring the lower rates in?
The problem is that when we get the rates higher right now, we just see a big loss of clientele because the hotel standing is, for sure, the hotel is a bit outdated. It has not been renovated, and we are undergoing renovations right now. We're changing the floors. We have plans to redo the lobby. We just got the designer finish the plans. So our plan, our long-term plan, is to get the hotel back up to a nicer standing. So we can't really drive our rate up if the product that we're offering right now is not up to par. So we're trying to compare ourselves to other hotels like the Grand, that we find that they're pretty much the same type of hotel as us. We can't sell much more expensive than what they're doing right now, or else we just really don't have enough customers to cover our costs. So when we lower the rates, we still seed these activities and we try to like reduce it at a maximum. We took like other measures to be able to reduce these type of activities that I could discuss further for the other matters that we put. I believe that it has reduced a bit, but not as much as we want right now. So we have other plans to increase security in the hotel to make it safer for all our customers.
Detective, may I have Nancy ask you questions?
What?
I want to ask you a question. I have questions of Mr. Yale.
Of course.
Mr. Yale, are you been involved in this property very long?
I've been involved in the property for about, I would say, 9 months right now. This property is owned by the Kedger Group, a group in Canada. So I work for the group. It was before co-owned. There was 2 owners. So it was recently purchased by just this group. And this is when I took over the hotel, but the hotel is not in its greatest standing since.
I understand, but I'm sorry. My name is Don Lonneray for the board with the city attorney's office. How long have you been managing this property?
A good 9 months, but
You've been involved 9 months?
I've been involved 9 months, but there has always been a general manager that has been here, that reports to me, that gives me the insights of what's happening at the hotel.
And where's that general manager now?
Danny Santiago is no longer working with us.
Okay, and are you going to be the general manager from now on?
We are going to look for a general manager, but from now on, I'm going to be the person coming here at least once a month. And right now I'm here for a good 3 weeks. So to relook at what's happening at a hotel, because by being in distance, we had a lot of, management issues also.
No, I'm not trying to cut you short. We have a lot of people doing. I just want to like make sure I just keep it short as far as that. So I appreciate you coming here. Where'd you come from?
From Montreal.
Montreal. Okay. Are you going to come here every month?
I'm going to come here every month. Yeah.
And then who's going to be here when you're not here?
It's Joria that is the hotel manager. So she
Okay.
represents the hotel.
She represents the hotel from when you're not here.
Exactly.
So she'll be the representative like every day.
Exactly.
I don't know if everyone's aware of that. I wasn't aware of that. But
Yeah, this is the first.
okay, that's what I was wondering. I felt I was missing something, that's all. But I really appreciate you coming here and I don't mean to be and I appreciate you both coming here. It's a lot. Detective, that's all I have this time.
Okay. Just for the board's information, on 4/26, both Joyce and I went to the hotel. Ann spoke with, and I don't want to butcher your name.
Drea.
Baldo?
Drea Baloo.
Baloo. We went over, just to kind of solidify, as she was, stepping into what was Mr. Santiago's role. We went back over all the police recommendations. We photocopied the police recommendations, gave them to her just to make sure that there was no, misunderstandings, no issues, whatever, no questions that she had. I would say that the biggest things from the police department side were that the hotel was not accepting cash. That they were taking IDs upon reserving rooms, the things that we had been really trying to focus on when Mr. Santiago was there. Just for the board's recollection, as of 3/1, if you don't mind cueing the next slide. So the board had ordered that on March 1st, 2023, that the owner or owner's designated manager would no longer accept cash as payment for new reservations at the hotel. The owner would make all attempts to convert reservations made prior to this date to non-cash payment. That was a very clear sticking point.
Right.
So every week, along with the hotel occupancy costs that we get, we also receive what's called the guest in-house. And it notes on there, and if you don't mind hitting the next slide. So I know this is difficult to see, but I'll kind of translate it for the board. But more so what my question is for hotel management is, am I interpreting this correctly when it states the room number, the guest name, how they booked the room, when they arrived, when they made a deposit, but more so when it says payment method, under the payment method codes, does CA stand for cash,
C stands for cash or debit
cash or debit?
or debit.
So it's the same
It's the
designation for cash or debit, it's the same one?
same one for the cash or debit because you can't take a pre-authorization, so it doesn't show
What
as
row is that?
credit card.
I'm sorry, it is hard to see.
Yeah, it's
From the left to right.
It's the
Sixth row, I think
Sixth
sixth
Second
row.
to last row, I
yeah,
believe.
it's the second to last row, but
Second. Right.
Okay,
so is there any way to differentiate
I will have
cash from debit, actual cash?
There is a way. I'll have to reconfigure how the PMS is shown inside,
Okay.
but there is a way. Right now, the best way we could do is to get out all these guest folio. We're gonna see the payment. The payment method inside will be registered as debit. But I will be able to change and tell the reception to put debit for everyone who pays debit.
And
Um,
also, just to add, also when it's a third-party reservation, in order for guests to get their deposits back to their cards, we have to change it to a CA for the deposits to be released. So that's why you'll see that as well.
okay,
Can I ask a question?
Avi, go ahead.
But I guess, are we confirming though that there is no cash being received from anybody?
No, we are not accepting cash.
No, they are not.
Okay, thanks.
What is the average stay of the guest? Or they're just some that are one night or they a couple days? How has that changed, if anything?
I'd say the average length of stay is about 1.5, so there's a lot of one nights. And there is some repeat customers, but it's hard to quantify because these people sometimes they come at the front desk every day to renew their rooms. So we do have a few cases like that, maybe 15, I would say.
Yes.
If you don't mind, cue the next slide, unless anybody has any questions about what's shown prior. So on.
I'm sorry, I just have another question. What happened to Santiago? Can we ask that question?
Well, Mr. Santiago, he was supposed to stay for another 2 weeks, but to be really honest, he kind of disappeared. And I don't have any contact with him at all, and this is why I came as emergency to Fort Lauderdale here.
and just so everyone knows, I'm sorry, Don Laundrie, City of Fort Lauderdale. If I may, I was contacted by Mr. Yale out of the blue one day in my office. He took the initiative to contact me. I guess it's the easiest way to go. Sometimes that's whoever he gives the number to, but he contacted me, told me what was going on, and he got a hold of me right away. And he didn't tell me what happened to Santiago, but he did say he's in contact. He'll be at the board meeting and he'll be responsible. And he's here now. So that's how it happened.
Okay, so Santiago resigned, basically, it sounds like.
Santiago resigned, but at the time I talked with Mr. Lottery here, I did not know yet actually what was happening with Mr.
Right.
Santiago. He didn't show
We
up,
don't.
and right now, like he disappeared pretty much.
Okay,
I'm working on the lottery, but I'm not it yet.
thank you.
So, if you could do the next, so, what the board sees here, is, obviously I work in a unit, through the Department of Special Investigations Division. And some of the things that the Special Investigations Division is tasked with is obviously vice or narcotics, as well as any prostitution operations. What this is a screenshot of a commonly used, escort service, which is commonly synonymous with prostitution. Basically, the screenshot that you see captured here is that any person can go to this website. It will ask you for which state and city. If you click Florida and then Fort Lauderdale, you can then actually search and put in Plaza Hotel, and you'll see the results for Plaza Hotel. Within that website or application, several postings per day for as long as you care to go back are being posted for escort prostitution services, listing Plaza Hotel, 5100 North State Road 7. This was obviously a concern to the police department. I know that Mr. Santiago had been previously aware of similar activity and was trying to make efforts to curtail it. We have identified that the persons under which are at least responding to the ads are paying for the rooms with cash. So on 5/1, approximately 11 days ago, officers, detectives within my division went into the hotel plainclothes and asked to rent a room without a reservation for cash. The I don't want to call her a clerk, but the receptionist advised that he could rent a room for cash. He explained he didn't have a card, didn't have a credit card, and she said that he can rent a room for cash and that he could also pay his deposit with cash. So obviously that was contrary to,
What day was that?
that was on May 1st.
Twenty
Did he
twenty-three?
take the clerk's name?
I believe within the recording, he says her name. I have it recorded on audio. I won't belabor the board unless there's a request to play the audio.
Well, it's just a very big concern because it really negates the requirements that we had asked for and were agreed to. It totally violates that.
So on 5/11 today, I called the hotel. Obviously, we don't have the manpower to put together an operation to continually check. However, given that we had met with management on 4/26, we gave it about 5 days or so. We did the operation. The hotel at that point obviously had said that they were willing to accept cash for the room as well as cash for the deposit. On 5/11, when I called today, they said, "I'm sorry, we don't accept cash." That was what was given over the phone. However, obviously, to your point, that is a concern to try to curtail things like that, as we know that the links are between the cash customers and ads like you see here. So I wanted to bring that to the board's attention and just at least make the board aware of that.
Right. My first question is, do we know who's spearheading this? Because there must be some type of a tie. If I'm wrong, please let me know. There seems to be a tie then between the hotel and this escort service that it's being permitted to do that.
I can answer that question
Okay,
from
go
an
ahead.
investigative standpoint. The hotel can't control who posts these ads. Anybody can go on there today, post an ad. I mean, you could put my address on there. There's no way for them to control it.
Okay.
The issue that I think should be brought up is that they're openly advertising services for that location. If the checks were in place that the hotel was not accepting cash, taking proper identification,
Right.
it has been our experience that those types of problems will dramatically reduce or cease to exist, because they're not going to run these types of ads at a facility that's not accepting cash, that's taking the board required $500 credit deposit, things like that, they'll go somewhere else. And that's the reason why the board put those procedures into place to try to curtail them. But what you see here today is effective as of a few hours ago.
Okay, so my next question is, when there is a violation of what the terms were supposed to be under nuisance abatement, what are the next steps as far as we're concerned? Because this is really a big violation, especially the taking of the cash.
The, under the police recommendations, and we can pull up the order, but I believe it's, up to $250 per day per incident, of the recommendations, as well as, the authority to, require payment of the full amount of initial investigative costs that, if my memory serves me correctly, was only paid at 50% or held in abeyance until, the end of the order.
That's correct.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
before I conclude, I just want to say, when Joyce and I were out on 426, we asked to see a room. We conveniently asked to see one of the rooms that we were aware that was being used for some nefarious activity. The person who was renting that room had checked out that morning. We just asked to see it, because we wanted to, I guess, put eyes on what we were dealing with. When the door was open, we noticed that the window was open in the hotel room. So kind of wind was blowing in, which very bizarre for a room that was seemingly cleaned and ready to be occupied. I also noticed that there was some pretty bad water damage on the floor that looked like the floor had been in disrepair. When we went down the hallway to exit and go return back to the elevator, Joyce had noticed that one of the hotel room doors was open. And apparently within that room, even though the lock had been changed, the door, when it closed, wasn't locking. So obviously there's still some issues there with the rooms and the locks. And when you read some of the burglary reports that had occurred, that seems to be a consistent theme that there's some issues with the doors not locking properly, even though the locks have been replaced. Some maintenance issues, things like that. So some things, I guess, there that are.
What floor were you on?
We're on the second floor.
So that somebody easily could, if there's balconies, somebody could easily just get into that room.
Correct. Without revealing investigative
Right.
tactics, we were able to identify that room 208 was being used for some of the ads that you see here. That was the room that we wanted to see. And that was what we discovered when we went to that room, even though at the time that we had visited it, it had not been rented, it was not occupied, and it was listed as ready to be rented. So I guess some things on the management side of the house there that, or housekeeping side, I'm not sure whose responsibility that would be.
Avi, go ahead.
Yes, so room 208, was that rented for cash?
I wouldn't be able to answer that question, given the statement that was provided about whether CA resulted in a cash payment or not. I don't know if it was cash or debit.
Okay, so it's CA, it's designated CA for that. Okay, thank you.
And can I just add that the room 200 that we saw, we were not aware until we walked in that, but maintenance did fix it that same day.
And
I'm sorry, I didn't hear
Room
that.
The room
200 was the
200, that was the door that we walked past and it was open and I called maintenance with Jameson still there and they fixed it.
it would be important for me to know around what time that agent wanted to rent it cash, because we have had problems in the past. We have had agents who put rooms out of order and who would take cash in the pocket.
It was,
Because I don't have any cash. When I run a cash report, clearly I don't have any cash that is coming in apart from rent. Right now, the only cash that I'm taking in the hotel is the rent for the restaurant, for the beauty shop, and the gift shop. That's about it.
it was on the first of the month at 10:18 PM.
So you're saying employees may be stealing
It happened.
cash?
It happened, and we had to actually fire a few employees because we caught them in criminal activity, stealing customers. So before changing the door locks, we knew that one of the employees took the master key, which is a physical key, and went in the rooms to steal guests. So it did happen in the past, and we found that in the past. We cleaned up all that, so I hope that there's not that type of
Makes sense.
activity anymore.
That's why I said it.
But I'm scared that this is what's happening. That's why I want to know when.
The clerk's name was.
Alicia.
So as
That
far
was
as,
that was for levity, that's all. So.
as far as, from the police department side, that's all I have, other than I would recommend discussion about, changing the detail hours, to extend those, but I'll let the board, I guess. Have a
Well,
moment to
it
discuss.
sounds like, especially looking at the chart you have, that there seems to be 24-hour problems. And, you know, as much as I would not want to put you in a financial thing, you might need to increase 24 hours until this gets remedied, because this is pretty serious.
Understand, may I add something here? Having the police for sure does help us, because the police is here right now during 8 hours. But one thing that we don't have is the police will stay outside. And for sure, all the activities, criminal activities, sometimes they deteriorate, but they still happen at the hotel. One of the mistake maybe that management did previously is to take a security agent out during the hours that the police is here. So inside the premises is not controlled right now. And financially, it is complicated for the owner to say, I'm going to add a security at the same time as a police agent. So right now I have convinced him to put a security agent at the same time, because for me, it's important to be able to reduce these type of activity. I need a security agent inside with a list of guests in-house, with a company guest, and everyone who comes in, I want them to be asked, are they a guest of the hotel? And they have to identify themselves. By doing so, I think that I could reduce these activities, because if they can't come in the hotel anymore, they have to be registered at each time and give an ID. They will not want to come for prostitution or buy drugs. So this is what I do think that could help the hotel. This is one thing that I want to do, and I'm adding security cameras on all the floors. We used to not have security cameras looking the rooms, but right now I want a security cameras on every floor, 4 security cameras. So I think that would also deter some of these activities, because it would. Normally, we don't like to do this because we don't want to breach into guest privacy. But at the same time, for this type of hotel, we feel that it is mandatory to do this. So these are the actions that we want to take right now. We want to control access as maximum as we can.
When you assign your rooms, are you assigning all over the hotel? Or are you leaving out certain floors?
We're trying to assign first the 5th and the 4th. Those are the 2 floors that were renovated. And then we're assigning other sections. Normally, we would close out a section if we can, because that is the section would use less electricity and all that kind of stuff. So that section, we don't have to survey.
My other question is, do you have somebody, whether it's security or an off-duty officer, roaming the floors?
We have that 16 hours a day right now, when we do receive a report from City Watch as our security agents. So they do that twice a day, but what we do not have that I want to add is a person in front controlling the access. Because if anyone can get in or out of the hotel, even if my security agent is walking during rounds, I don't know what's happening in the rooms. And I can't really breach the guest privacy to go in the room.
Now, how many places are there where a guest can check in at the hotel? Is there just a main check-in desk?
There's just the main check-in desk, and there's just the front entrance. And right now we have a challenge because I have one door that doesn't close. And that is on my south entrance. So, no, my south entrance is completely locked. It's on the side. I don't know how you call it. I think the south, they call it the southeast entrance. So I have a problem with that door right now. I got contractors coming this week.
I'm sorry, can we draw a map? I'm completely lost.
And are there cameras that monitor those desk agents?
Yes, cameras, desk agent, yes.
A very rough map, just like a square
Yeah.
that shows entrances are watched and entrances that aren't watched, just for our behalf. Very rough. We don't expect to scale at all.
And do people routinely review that security footage or those cameras?
Yes, we do actively review it. And those security cameras are saved for about 3 months right now, but I'm increasing the time that they're saved.
So if you had a desk agent illegally taking cash, how would they be able to do that outside of the purview of the check-in cameras?
We will see in the check-in cameras, but we don't always check it, because what he would do, often he would take a room that is not rented, in a day that is not very occupied, at night, often that happens, he would assign that room to the customer, and then he would say there was a housekeeping discrepancy. The room is just dirty the next day. So housekeeping would clean the room, but there was no one that was checked in. And
Okay.
that can happen in hotels. That is the thing that happens the most with night auditors, because they know that at night, no one is surveying them. So this is something that, yes, we actively check, but it's normal for us, like, we don't see that the guest is like given, we don't check 24 hours seeing the guest is given cash, you know.
Sure.
But that is what happens often.
How often would you say that happens?
Well, I've worked in hotel industry for 9 years, and we have fired a good 12 people already for that around, not
And
just.
they could rent it probably a
Once
few
a
times
week,
at
once a
night,
month,
you know,
once a
cleaned up
year.
once.
No, it would happen with normally one specific employee. When he knows the loophole, he would do it quite a few times before he get caught. So not everyone would be doing that, but often it's that shift of the night.
And you feel that's been happening?
It has happened before at the hotel. I don't know because I'm not there. I can't say, but it has happened before in the past. We have fired a person for
At
this
this plaza?
at this plaza, yes.
Well, Mr. Yale, I was trying to give you a hard time, but I'm sorry.
This is,
I'm sorry. I was asking Mr. Yale to provide a map of the entrances that were protected and not protected and open and not open.
so we got like the
So,
main,
so we don't spend all night going back and forth. I thought it might be quicker, not because I'm like a stickler
we got the main entrance here,
or because I am. I don't know.
and we got the entrance here for like the meeting rooms, and this is the main entrance. This is the reception. So this is always open to guests.
I don't think the board members can see anything you're doing, just so you know.
This is like, this is the reception counter. This is the main entrance. This door is always open. This door is to go to the meeting rooms. They're always locked. Then you got an emergency exit door here. This door is locked from the outside. It's a push bar. You have emergency exits door here, locked from the outside also. I mean, it's push bar too. It's not emergency exit. They are corridor doors. Normally guests
But
can
someone
come
can
in or
push them in, right?
not push them in. They need the access card to go in. Someone can push to go out, but they can't.
But
come in.
if I'm inside, I can push.
Yes,
out
to go
let
out.
Somebody in.
Yes, you could push out to let somebody in, but
Okay.
technically I can't really
Normal,
close it, I
normal.
think, for fire department.
Right.
Over here, I have another type of door. The same thing is here, but this one does not close right now. So this one, I have got no choice to leave it open. So right now, customer can come in or out at any time, and this is where I see the big issue.
Why is that?
I know that the door had to be
I knew it was
replaced.
coming. That's why I said it. Sorry.
Well, the door got like forced. Okay, the door
Okay,
got
got
forced,
broken.
and we have to,
Broke the jam.
somebody broke the jam.
And I gotta say, Mr. Yale, I'm very impressed that you draw a map and get it done that quickly. Seems you just took over the property and you're from Canada, so thank you.
So
And I'll get it back to the board. I'm not trying to interfere, just trying to be.
my main goal of coming here was to see the main issues of the property and try to see what we could do, because it's not this type of property that we want to have. We're trying to invest a lot of money inside to get the standing up, but clearly we're having an issue here. And I do see that this door for me is causing a big issue. I've got 4 companies already that came in this week. I expect this door to be repaired next week, because if this door is not repaired, putting a security agent in front will not change anything for me. People can still come in. Why I want to do this is really having every guest that comes in or out controlled. He'll have a guest in-house list, and he will not even do rounds. The security agent will stay just there. Because I don't want anyone to go past him without identifying that he's a guest. Or if he's a friend, he got to register to the room.
I have
Just-
a question.
Just for the board's information, one of the stipulations was that all entrances will be locked for entry purposes after dark. And then the main entrance will remain the sole point of entry after dark and until daylight, with the exception of emergencies. So just
That's what you said.
to bring it back to why that matters or why we care about that, that was one of the orders.
My other, well, another question is, after a certain time of the evening, are people only required to come in and out one door? Because I know there are venues that do that after like 8 o'clock at night, just
No,
this is your entrance, this is your exit.
normally in the past, when the doors used to work well, the 3 doors behind, they would all be locked automatically after 10 p.m. unless you have a guest key card. When you swipe the guest key card in, you could go in and out. But those guest key card, that system was not working for a while already. And that's why we replaced the whole door lock system, and that we have to replace those ones also. But if these doors don't get replaced, the 2-1, even if it's a push bar right now, I can't put that system in. So my objective is normally to put the system in, because if customers don't have a key, I don't want them to be able to come in at all from those entrances. They should always be locked.
If I could just, do Robert or Avi have any questions at this point?
I had a, Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. You go ahead, Robert.
I just had, sorry if it's minor, just when you did catch those employees actually stealing from the guests or doing other kinds of things that were questionable, I just wanted to know, did you make it as a matter of a course to actually, file a police report and report them for the crimes, or was it, or I don't want to invade any confidential employment agreement. I just want to know if you actually reported it when you spotted that the employees were committing crimes, or did you just kind of, avoid reporting and just terminate them?
Well, there has been case in the past where we did not report and we terminated, but I do believe that the previous case that we had about 3 months ago, the theft in the room, that was reported. So it
Okay,
depends of
yeah.
it depends of the damage. Sometimes if we know how much he stole, we would, we don't always want to get the employee into a criminal record also. Sometimes we get into arrangement with him. But previously, this one was pretty big. We do open a police report.
So they at least have to make restitution. Avi?
Yes, so, was it, I'm sorry, was it Mr. Yale? Is that the
Yes,
name?
it's me.
Is
Yes,
it,
that's
is your experience 9 years in the industry, and then the company that you work for, do they specialize in these kind of properties? Like, have you had experience with bringing up these kind of properties before?
We do, because the first property the owner purchased is a motel like this in Canada that we used to have the same problem. The name is Motel New Star. So the business model of the owner often is to buy outdated property that are problematic, that are at a good price. And my job normally is to come in and to make the hotel better. Normally it takes about
Okay.
1 to 3 years to see it standing. So we do have experience in that. And we also have high-end hotels that are 4 stars in Montreal. We have the very low ends and we have the very high ends. But often what we
Okay,
do
so
with the
you-
low ends, we convert it.
Okay, so do you expect the process here to take another, year?
I expect that the renovation would take maximum a year. To convert the clientele, to get a much better clientele, it would take at least a good 2 years, because we got to be realistic that the place where the hotel is located, I can't go and get the best business travelers right now. So I do have to work with the location also. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to get the hotel standing up, and at the same time work with the local clientele that we have there and try to accept the best of them. And it is a challenge because the hotel is 272 rooms. Hotels in that area is normally 90 rooms, 100 rooms. And this is one of the reasons why sometimes we got to put the rates down. Because, by having a big property, your cost for sure, it's much higher than a lower property. So for us to be in balance with our costs, break even, we need at least a 50% occupancy with that type of rate. So this is our main challenges with this property. But right now we're undergoing like renovations in all the flooring is being changed because there was water damage. Windows are finished. I'll be honest, we don't have enough budget to change the windows, so we're caulking them to be able to hold for another 3 years, and those windows will have to be changed also. Our roofing was finished, so our roofing is going to have to be changed. We have a lot of expense to do to get this hotel back to place because it has been neglected for, I'd say, the past 10 years. It has been neglected.
So are you seeing any challenges that are different from like your experience with the other low end hotels, that you've had experience with? Is there anything here surprising you?
Not really much stuff surprising me. I would say maybe in the States we would see more maybe guns, or we would see more like sometimes I see ammunition. I would see more stuff like that than in Canada. I don't see it anymore, but I remember 8-9 months ago, the first time I visited the property, it was I felt it not too safe compared to outdated properties I have in Canada. I see it getting much better right now, but it's still not, where we want it to be. And it's impossible for us to convert this place within 6 months, 1 year. So the property I'm taking care of since 9 months is the main objective is to change it, to make it better here.
Okay, thank you.
I think Joyce had a.
Yeah, I have a question, Mr. Chair. Have you reviewed the orders that the property?
I have reviewed the previous order that the board wrote for the
There's
property.
ones on that and understand what you need to do to be in compliance with the orders.
Well, I'll be fully honest, what we have is what Mr. Daniel Santiago would give us.
You
So
look for copies of all 3 orders.
we had the last copy that we had was just stating that we could not take cash and that the doors had to be locked, if I'm not mistaken.
So that's a no, you didn't see it follow the orders. Because that's what the board's about, is the compliance to the orders.
If management, I guess, above or at your level or above doesn't have the orders, we can certainly furnish those orders. But what the board's position is and what the police department's position is compliance with the orders. So as long as there's compliance there, which, you know, we hope that the compliance of the orders will result in a reduction of crime and nuisance related calls for service. If there's not compliance with the orders, then that's when we tend to see a tick up of crime or incidents.
I understand that. This is one of the reason why I tried to reach you. I mean, last week we spoke today, but that's why I tried to reach you, is to get up to date with this file. Because I don't know everything that was communicated from our general manager to upper management. So I take all the information that I get from general manager. For us, we hired a general manager to get this hotel better. We hired Mr. Santiago because he had experience in turning hotels. He have done a lot of different brands, and he got outdated hotel to a better standing. This is one of the main reasons why we hired him. Now we're changing all how it is being done, because the progress that we're seeing right now was not fast enough. So we've been having issues here and there with him in the past. And I was scheduled to come, but he was not scheduled to leave. So it was kind of like a surprise for me. I was supposed to come, he knew the dates. I came here and never met him, not even one day. So it's kind of hard for me to catch up on everything right now.
So, Mr. Chair, I guess just in the interest of time, you know, the police department's recommendations would be to extend the police detail, to at least cover a majority of the above average calls for service, obviously at the discretion of the board, as well as to institute the full payment of the initial investigative costs. And then obviously at the board's discretion, any finding for non-compliance on several different of the police recommendations.
Can I get a motion?
I will move to approve the police recommendations. with Respect to the hours. The finding to require the other half of the initial investigative costs to be assessed.
So I believe, I mean, what my recommendation would be initially for the increase in police detail services would be to extend it from its current hours to 11 a.m. to 2 a.m. That would be what I would recommend at a minimum, cover those peak hours, or at least the times that we've identified. The investigative costs, I believe in reading the order, what was waived in the initial was $571.60. Just to add that to the motion for the board's consideration. And then at the board's discretion, the fining rate is $250 per day per item, not to exceed $250 per day, to be imposed for each day of non-compliance. My recommendation would be not to exceed the 30 days, since we haven't had a meeting, which since what would have been the meeting had it not been canceled due to flooding. But obviously there's non-compliance here, but I don't have a recommendation, so to speak, but not to exceed the 30 days of the 250 per day.
I guess it's a point.
Can I'm sorry, can I
Go on.
ask something?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, thank you. We started having problems with this property just after it was sold. Was this property never on the agenda of this board before? It would seem strange to me.
That I couldn't answer.
Yeah, I don't know if I can answer that question, but all I can answer, Mr. Pepper, is that that upon the board taking the property under its jurisdiction, it had met the criteria statutorily at that point to do so. I can't speak to what I guess occurred prior to that, because it wouldn't, not every property within the city limits is is looked at every month. So it would
Right,
be almost
okay.
impossible.
Okay, maybe just as a follow-on to that, and I'm not sure if I can speak openly in front of everybody, but my feeling is that this serves the citizens of the city of Fort Lauderdale, the fact that there are new owners who are trying to raise the standard of the property and et cetera, et cetera. Like I said, I'm surprised it would never have come up before, because it would seem to me like, it likely has been a problematic property for quite some time. So all I want to say is I don't want to discourage these people from continuing to do what they're doing and getting this property up to par, to a higher standard. So just to try and, I'm not trying to cut them some slack here, but I just want to point out that it is also in our interest, to get this property up and running and to a better level as soon as possible without fining too much. And I mean, that's all. I just feel like that should be said. This is kind of like what I'm feeling.
Quick logistical question. In the event that the board assesses a fine, can the board abate enforcing that fine pending other issues? Pending future conduct?
That I would defer to.
I'm sorry, Don Laundrie. The way it works is fines are assessed and they are payable when due. But if the board changes their mind at a later date, the board can, as stated here, abate such fine and reduce or zero out the fine. This is not a mandatory fine assessed by law or by statute. It's something assessed by the board. And it's also it's hard to understand. I don't want to say that you don't have to pay, because you have to pay it. It's like when you're told to pay it, it's like a statute, like Florida statute, you got to pay it, because this nuisance abatement board is formed by statute. But if the board changes their mind, they can reduce the fine or zero the fine. That's why I always tell everyone, and again, I'm not a board member and I'm not law enforcement, but if they tell you to pay the fine, you need to pay the fine. That's why I say to everyone I deal with, work with the board. If you don't work with the board, it'll get worse for you. They have the ability to take away your ability to operate at certain times. They have the ability to take away your ability to operate the way you normally operate. And they have the ability to fine you quite heavily. So with that said, they have the ability to reduce those fines and increase your ability to operate in certain times. With that said, that's my opinion. Period. That's it.
Thank you.
How many of the nuisance abatement signs are around the premise?
I don't know exactly how many, but I know that that portion of the order they are in compliance with. I believe that the signs were to be placed at every, I believe it was at the discretion of the investigating detective. And I remember going through the hotel with Mr. Santiago and placing those signs. But that's not an issue that I have any contention with.
I have one more question, Mr. Note. Do you have an armed security guard for there?
We have an armed security guard.
And what hours is that?
He is during
So you
10
guys are
PM.
currently here from
Yeah, you
4
guys are
PM
here
to
from 4 to
12, and
12.
they're covered the other hour. But
The 16 hours that you guys are not here, they're here. So they're from 12 to 8, and we have another shift from 8 to 4. But I added an extra shift that has started yesterday from 4 to midnight. Because since I came here, I know that the police are outside, but never inside. So we're still having issues inside with guests.
And then
This
with
is
the
why I added a
police-
security, but I'm sitting in a place where it is hard for the new owner to try to invest and to try to get this property going better when we're having fines and a lot of fees to pay right now. It is not easy for us right now to to try to correct this property. We have a lot of money to be put in this property to make it good.
I'm sorry, are you not the new owner?
I'm not the owner, I represent the owner. I represent the new owner, yes.
Okay,
But I'm not the owner. Well, I'm like a VP for his group.
so you're a separate company from the owner?
No, I work for the owner, for Kedja Group. Kedja Group is the owner and he owns the hotel.
Okay, I missed something there, sorry.
I guess, Mr. Chair, if you don't mind, just because Joyce and I will be responsible for typing out the order. If we want to take it compartmentally, first discuss the hours of the detail, then the investigative costs, and then finding. That's through the chair.
If I may,
Yeah.
if I may, you're not allowed to assign fines as you see fit.
Right.
You're allowed to assign the fines that are coming up and due. So if you have said, this is the fine, this is the amount for not being done, then you have to assign that fine. Later at a date, you're allowed to relieve that fine or enforce that fine. But I believe as the fine comes up, it has to be enforced. You can't waiver and say, okay, so this was due now and maybe we'll enforce it later. You have to enforce it today for non-compliance or not enforce it for compliance. If they're found in compliance by the board, then you can allow them not to be fined. But if they are not in compliance, they have to be fined
Exactly.
the
Right,
full amount.
I understand that.
And then you can allow them not to pay that later if they're found in compliance or you make a deal with them. But you have to put it over them now and let them know what's going on, because that's the way the statute works. And although it may seem harsh to new owners or new management, this is what the nuisance abatement does. Instead of shutting you down and sending you to the commission, which takes away your ability to operate. So it's quite lenient compared to what the alternative is. And that's why nuisance abatement exists, for, just so Canadians understand, it's a Florida statute thing. And the Florida statute and the governor's office and Florida statute allows us to do this. That's why we're here. But I can talk to you about that later, but it's not terrible. And I will tell you, this board is very reasonable and easy to work with, but they do have to operate within the parameters they're given.
Mhm.
That's my 2 cents.
How many days? I mean, are we gonna, or do we take in consideration the month we did not meet? Because if things were going good to that point, I'm just trying to get some clarification on how we're going to assess. Because if things were okay between,
I understand, if I may, again,
Sure.
Don Lauder for the board. This is a situation where the limitations, statute of limitations by the board has been told by the governor. So we were extended and nothing matters at that point. We're back to our new date. You can forget about the old dates that weren't here. And you can't hold it against them either because they weren't here and we weren't here. That's how it works. So it's not like they're out of compliance for 30 days. It's not like we were here for 30 days. The statute basically disappeared because the governor said so, because of flooding and emergency circumstances. And if you don't know, we were flooded out.
Yeah,
We lost power, we lost ability to operate, things like that. Make sense?
Makes sense. We
Any
had,
questions about that?
no, we had big issues at the hotel also with the flooding.
Yeah, you had the same things, right?
Well, our roofing has to be done, so
Did-
for
did
sure,
you-
we had a lot of water in all.
Well,
of
that's
our
probably something you want to let the board know too, if you had lost time in management or, and Mr. Santiago and everything else, and that's why you're behind on your
Well, for sure that
required actions by the board.
during those, that week, it was pretty hectic for everyone because we had a lot of employees who lost, I think, what issues with their home. So we had to let some employees not come in. I know that Mr. Santiago said he was in even Saturdays or Sundays. And I think you were here also a lot of the days because a lot of employees couldn't show up. And at the hotel
You couldn't
ourselves,
get out your driveway. Some people couldn't get out their driveway.
the employees couldn't come out and our hotel was like, rooms were flooded. The roof had so much rain on it that it deboarded on the sides and the sides of the roof is finished. So there was some water that came in the room. So it was pretty hectic for us for a good 2 or 3 weeks. Even now, we're still fixing some rooms that has been damaged by that. And that's when we know that the whole roofing has to be done.
You have receipts to show the evidence of the flood damage.
We do have, yeah.
I
We do
think
have,
that,
pictures and
I
receipts.
think you should present that to the board. I'm just saying.
I don't have any like right now, but I do have like, I could show operations that
Do you want
we can
30
get
days
receipts.
to present such thing to the board?
if I have 30 days, yes, I could present.
Right, you should ask them for it.
I
I'm not the
didn't, I
board.
didn't know, sir. Can I get 30 days to present like the receipts and the damages that was done during that flooding to our hotel?
Do our Zoom board members hear that request?
Yes, I agree. I approve.
Robert?
So weird, right?
Sorry, I had the mute button. I agree. I approve.
Motions.
I guess as an initial point, I will move to adopt the department's recommendations to increase the police presence from 11 a.m. until 2 a.m. I believe that's 7 days a week. And I will also move to impose the other 50% of the investigative costs of $571.60 to be payable within the next 30 days.
Can I add something? When I met with you on the 26th, you told me that peak times were 3 p.m. and 10 p.m. My issue with that is that the police are here from 4 p.m. to 12 a.m. So I'm just trying to understand if they're gonna be here, what can we do to reduce the cost if we're getting the peak time call at 10 p.m. and they're here to 12? So I'm just trying to figure out what can we all do to make it better, because we can keep adding people, but if it's not getting better because they're not inside the property.
Yeah, I would say that in the interest of time, we're talking about a philosophical crime prevention strategy involving law enforcement, but the peak times are 3 p.m. and 10 p.m. Followed by a bunch of other peak times within that window that I mentioned, but the detail itself is coordinated by someone who's not affiliated with nuisance abatement. That's obviously intentional. Someone who's not affiliated with the board, but as far as the duties that those detail officers are performing while at the hotel, that is a discussion between hotel management and the coordinator of that detail, of whom I'm sure you have multiple conversations with. But from our side of the house, I would be very happy to recommend things that I think could be improved upon to utilize the detail so that it's much more impactful versus them, say, as you had noted, sitting outside.
Yeah.
So we can have a conversation about that because I do have some recommendations for you about that.
For sure, it would help if they were a bit inside, because our issue is the owner, by knowing that there's a police there, he says, don't take security. So by not taking security, that's when we're increasing our problems, because security is actually in the property. But the
Right.
police officers that are there have been seeing for a week, they're in the car just in front.
Right.
So it's
Yeah.
not like doing anything to the hotel right now. That's what I see.
Yep. No, and that's a very valid point.
Detective, I'm opposed to your recommendation to go back and add 3 more hours every day to the police detail.
Okay,
So if we're gonna have a vote, I just wanted you to know that if we're gonna have a vote on it, I'm gonna say no.
Understood.
So
I made the motion, so I don't know if there's a second or not.
What was the motion?
The motion was to approve the police recommendation for imposition of the other half of the investigative cost in the amount of $571.60, and to increase the police security detail from 11 a.m. to 2 a.m. Monday through Sunday.
You need a second.
is there a second, Robert or Avi?
I'll go ahead and second your motion.
All in favor, say aye, please.
Can I just stop really fast and just ask a question to the hotel management? Sir, do you support doing this? Are you in agreement with the police presence increasing, or is this something you don't want?
Well, for sure, for me, it's something I don't want, because right now I'm gonna have to go explain to the owner that, hey, I'm adding security agents, but the police is adding hours also. So, I'm management, I'm not the owner. I have to convince him that this extra budget is gonna be there. So what I'm scared right now is that, yes, I'm gonna add police officers, but I'm not gonna add security, and I'm not gonna go anywhere.
So it's not a.
So this is my big issue, because honestly, I've been here for a week. The police officer is in front in his car parked there and is not even doing rounds of the hotel. So people are just coming in and out as same as before. It did not change anything for me at all. But to have a
Okay.
security agent will change.
I'm going to abstain from voting on this, and I'm going to recommend that this is tabled for 30 days until we actually see your evidence that you're going to be presenting to us in 30 days. So I'm going to abstain from either voting yay or nay right now until there's further evidence. So my vote is abstention.
Right. The motion didn't pass, failed.
So in the purview of.
You can't reset it for 30 days, whatever, it's not gonna happen.
Yeah, so, I would then, also move for a finding of violation. Imposition of a $250 fine for the 30 days, with the, acceptance of the cash with the, door issue. And I would, move that the fine be payable within 60 days. If that is permissible under the statute.
$250 times 30 days?
Correct.
Yeah, 7,500.
Yep. And that would allow the 30 days to, hear any contrary evidence or see the proof of the flooding.
So just so I understand, given what the attorney said, we don't have if we have moved in the past, if we assigned a fine to an item and that item is not in compliance, it's not like we have a choice here. Is that correct?
Not asking me. You make a motion to discuss if you want.
No, I'm asking, is that correct what I understood you had said? You had said that we don't really have any leeway here, that if we had already established that if we had assigned a fine to an item and it has now been determined that the item has been in non-compliance for X number of days, then we don't have a choice in the matter, then that fine applies. We only have a choice in whether we want to abate it later on or something like that. Did I understand you correctly?
Well, first I would ask the board to make a motion to discuss. If someone could.
I'll move to discuss the pending motion.
Thank you. I know, I'm sorry. Again, so what we're looking at is now we have a motion on the floor. The motion is to enforce what was recently assigned for not being in compliance. So the motion can be granted. And if you are approved, if you approve the motion, then you can later abate the motion. But you can't make up you can't make up a fine. You can't say, hey, let's make it 150 a day. Let's make it 100 a day. It's got to be the 250 a day for whatever time was assigned, and then go forward from there. Later, if the property owner is found in compliance, like tomorrow or tonight, and the board is very impressed with what they find, or they just want to be like, they want to work with the owner, they can abate, reduce, or change the fine at that point. But they cannot assess an undetermined amount upon how they feel. It has to be the certain amount that was set in the past, like what was set by the detective in the beginning. When
Okay,
they're
but
found,
we need a motion. But we need a motion to
the
enforce
motion has
it,
been
or-
made. The motion is to fine them $250 a day. That's what
No,
we're discussing
okay.
now. It's $250 a
Yeah, I
day.
know. Right.
Avi, please let.
Yeah.
John Landry.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Right.
The motion right now is $250 a day until they're found in compliance. If you're gonna find, right now, the motion is to find them not in compliance and fine them $250 a day.
Okay, I'm still not sure here about whether, if I had understood you correctly or not. Do we have a choice here in terms of enforcing it or not?
Yes,
Meaning,
you have a choice. You have a choice
Oh,
of enforcing
okay.
it or not. That's why the motion was
Okay.
made. That's why
Okay,
the
thank
motion- the
you.
motion
That
discussed right
clears
now
it.
is over.
Okay. Okay, very good. Thank you. Now, the other question I have is this, so this is for that one door on the southeast side, which somehow it had been closed, but then somehow someone reopened it. Is that what we're talking about?
Right.
Is that the
Right,
door
but-
we're talking about?
There's a motion on the floor. And the motion is to enforce the 250 a day
Yeah.
until they're in
I'm-
compliance.
I'm ready
What's the
to cast.
infraction? What's the infraction? The infraction is that door?
The door, there has been cash accepted where there was not to be any cash payments. So there's
ready.
two right
Okay.
there.
I'm ready to cast my vote if you want to log it.
They actually
Um,
check into the room with cash,
Do we need to?
but he just asked.
You made the motion, right?
Yes.
I have
And
a
who-
question.
Who made the second on this motion?
Nobody,
I'll make the
because
I'll make the
All right, so
second.
there's no motion to vote on this yet.
I have a question. Did they actually check into the room and?
I'm sorry, you can't enter it right now.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry.
I'll go ahead and second that motion so that it's at issue for a vote.
Right, you're gonna make a motion to second at this point. To vote on the motion.
Correct. I'll second it so it's ready for a vote.
There you go.
Okay, now we're going to
Madam-
do a voice vote.
No,
Yeah.
I would recommend we do I'm sorry, that's what you meant, Chairman? Okay, yeah, I would agree, then it'd be a roll call vote.
Okay. Please.
Mr. Lindsay,
Aye.
Mr. Fanoff,
Aye.
Mr. Slotnick,
Sure.
yeah,
You vote.
Okay. Aye.
Mr. Pemper,
Nay.
Motion passes. And then
That's,
I would just note, from the police department side that, our recommendation would be that, the Plaza Hotel Management returns for the next, monthly status hearing on June 8th. We'll obviously send service, because it'll be at a time and place, most likely 7 PM on the 8th, however, at a place not yet determined, but we'll obviously send notice.
I think at this point, Detective T, you should explain to them what they're basing with the vote that just happened.
Yeah,
Yeah, I want to know, like, we have to pay a $7,500 fine, or we still have to pay every day?
60 days.
I think that it's
That's
a
what he said,
continuing
yeah.
violation
Yeah.
until they're found to not be in compliance. Or to
The
be
original
in
motion
until
was,
they're back
the
in
original
compliance.
motion I heard, and I can be corrected, was be paid in 60 days, will continue for 30 days. So it would continue up to the next time we meet.
We have the opportunity to,
Well, I think
With
that's
day-
up to
with
the
day-
board to
day
talk
one.
about, but the detective
Yeah.
should say what's going on now.
so day one of fining begins when? Today?
Right,
Right, so it will be, fining will begin today, technically.
that they're non-compliance.
The board has found you're not in compliance, there's a $250 per day fine until the hotel reaches compliance.
If they can show their compliance tonight or tomorrow,
Correct.
it would end when they can show that. And additionally, I think, if you can't show your compliance, you need to come back to the board and show why you couldn't come in compliance and ask for them as to, how they want to treat it.
As
And-
well as the investigative costs of the $575 and
That was part of the motion.
571. Was
And
part of the
that is a 50% to pay the 571.
That was the remaining.
Right.
Remaining 50%. And if I understand, well, if we're in compliance, let's say tomorrow, how can I prove I have to call?
You would contact me and then I would note and just document the compliance.
But the fine just started, so today,
Correct.
for 30 days.
And the motion regarding the extension of the police detail failed. Police detail will remain effective as of the last motion.
And just as a point of clarification, I believe that motion was embedded with the investigative costs, so in the event that there's going to be
Exactly.
an assessment of the investigative costs, that would either have to be a separate motion.
Exactly.
Or would need to be heard at a separate time. That was not part of
You,
the.
you can hear it today.
Okay.
Okay, so it's only, the only motion that passed successfully was the finding.
Was
moving
finding
forward.
of non-compliance.
Okay, understood.
So the other 50% did not pass yet.
Right.
Correct. I will now move for an award of the other 50% of the investigative costs in the amount of $571.60 to be assessed against the property owner.
You had something to say?
I second.
Okay. Please
You need
do
to
a
make,
vote.
yeah, so now the motion's been made to vote.
Please do a voice roll.
You want a roll call?
Mr. Lindsay,
Aye.
Mr. Faniff,
Aye.
Mr. Slotnick, Mr. Pemper,
Aye.
Motion passes for the investigative costs of $571.60.
how much was that?
$571.60.
Total.
And we already paid a 50% of it.
Yeah, it's not per day, that's just the investigative cost. That's not a, it's just to clarify.
Any other discussion for?
Nothing else with that.
I would like to speak to Mr. Dale and get his contact information.
Yes, for sure. I would love
So, because I'm the one that sends out all paperwork. So I have a valid contact information for you.
I have one thing clarified. I need the board to clarify. I'm sorry. I speak so late that. Sorry. Joyce, I apologize. One thing for clarification is from the board itself is what does it take for the plaza at this point to come into compliance with the 250 a day? What exactly is it? Because there's been a lot of things talked about for the exit now.
Exit, no more cash.
I
No.
I need explicit things. The detective can make a decision, so the city can make a decision too. And I think I know what it is, but I just want to make sure the board is in.
Do we need to do a motion to clarify?
Well, no, it's not a motion to clarify. It's more like, we need to know that, because I know what you voted on, exactly. I want to make sure we know what we voted on. Does that make sense? Been crazy times lately, I know that, and that's why I'm asking.
I think so. When I hear from management, hey, we believe we're in compliance, what exactly?
Sometimes they don't understand. And I know we moved a little irregularly today, and I had to step out real quick. That's why I asked.
Okay,
I apologize for
The
stepping
list-
out, but I had to.
the list of the initial items for them to be in compliance from the initial order. They must be followed.
So item 6, all
Right.
entrances will be locked for entry purposes after dark. The
Right.
main entrance will remain the sole point of entry after dark and until daylight, with exception for emergencies. So when I conduct my check, when management
Whoa.
advises, I'll be checking for that to in fact be the case.
Where they are, the items that they are defaulting in being compliance need to be complied with. So the things that have been stated on the record that are failing compliance are the items that need to be corrected in order for any further abatement or any abatement of the fine of $250 a day.
Okay, but the question was, how do we want them to prove this to us? Because if we want them to prove to us that they're not accepting cash anymore, they already told us that they were not accepting cash, but then you have like a rogue receptionist that's accepting cash and taking the cash into their pockets, apparently. So how are we exactly going to be able to get them to prove to us, that they are not accepting cash? How are we gonna do it?
Sure. I think one of the things that we saw in the spreadsheet that had the payment description types, there was a CA category that couldn't delineate between debit cards and cash. And Mr. Yale advised that there is a way to go back into that program to shift the categorization.
I have a way for you.
Okay, but one second, but that's not gonna cover the case that we were just talking about. Because if they're not accepting cash, it doesn't matter if it's gonna say debit or cash, because they're not supposed to have anything show up as cash at all. So
Then they're going to have
all
a
they
problem
gotta,
showing compliance.
If I may, real quick.
No, that's a, no, one
Okay,
second, the way,
I'm
no.
sorry, I'm gonna ask the board, Don Laundrie, City Attorney's Office.
Listen.
What I'm asking the board to provide is what their recommendations are in the motion. And what they're saying is to come in compliance is this or that. If they say no cash and no cash up front to pay for rooms is part of compliance, we're okay with that. And that'll be determined by the detective and by the city, not by the board. The board's not gonna do the enforcement. The enforcement will come from the detective and the police department.
Right.
So we don't need to argue about that. What we need to talk about is what are the parameters for them to be in compliance? That's all. If it's no cash up front, it's the exits being restored or the parking lot being monitored, then that is it. It is up to them from the city of Fort Lauderdale to determine the actual enforcement. And that is what they're really good at. And that's what they do. Makes sense? I'm not trying to step on his toes.
Yes, sir. I'd like to make a motion that we define compliance as specifically that itemized there. I'd like to move that to the table for a vote, and I'm happy to receive a second because I certainly agree with the city attorney's statements here. And I think that compliance should be specifically defined as allowing the monitoring of the parking lot by Fort Lauderdale PD. I understand that the board collectively understands that it's going to be cashless.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to add anything to the agenda. I stepped out of the room momentarily. I was just stating what I think it could have been. That's why I was asking, what are the parameters for compliance for the Plaza Hotel? That's all.
The parking lot was not mentioned. It was the cash.
What compliance is.
You're
It
right.
was the cash and the door. It was the cash and the door.
Okay, no
That's what's in the
parking lot stuff. I
motion.
made that up. I'm sorry. I've been involved in many properties.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
It was the cash in the door.
Cash in the door.
Okay, so as I understand at this point, the compliance for the hotel or compliance for the Plaza Hotel would be to fix the door that is not operating correctly and allows people to enter and exit at all times of the day, and that there is cash being paid for rooms. And neither one of those two items can happen anymore. If those two items are corrected, the Plaza Hotel will be in compliance.
That is my understanding, correct?
Okay, so if I get a motion for an open discussion on that, we could end this right now.
Move for open discussion.
There we go. That's it. We don't need a motion to vote. We just need a motion for everyone to understand what's going on.
I understand.
Okay, Robert, do you understand?
I understand.
Okay.
Okay, and I'm sorry if I opened some sort of a box by saying something about the parking lot, because I'm involved in a lot of properties and I stepped out of the room, so I apologize.
Don't leave the room. Don't leave the room next time.
Okay, I'll be in compliance next time. I apologize.
Any other discussion on this? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hope that Things will work.
Thank you. I trust that things will work. I'll be there for the next date also. I will come myself from
When will
Canada.
be June 8th?
Yep, June 8th. The date has been noted, so I'll be there the week of June 8th. So when we'll receive that letter, I'll make sure to be here.
Any other board discussion for anything?
No.
All right, I need a motion to
Move to adjourn.
8:35, motion to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Yes,
What's the
second.
second?
I second.
There you
You
go.
seconded it, Dan?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank
You
you.
all
Thank you.
June
Good
8th.
night.
Thanks,
See you
y'all.
June 8th.
Bye.
Thank
Thank you. Bye.
That was funny.
That was interesting.